Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. We are back. It's been a while. Unfortunately, it's off the back of a disappointing loss to Everton, 2-1 at the Cottage. Here to talk it all through, we have, I'll start with Elton. How are we, Dad?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Good to be back. I cannot even think how long it's been since I've been on one of these pods. It's probably 2 months. It's a long time. Christmas, before Christmas. I can't remember. But
Yeah,
it's good to
it's
be back.
been a while. Lots going on all
We've had
over
a
the
lot
place
going
for
on.
us. And someone else who's had a lot going on joining us as well today. Mark, how are we, Mark? The newest pod daddy in the group. Tell us how you're going. Tell us your news, Mark.
Well, thanks for that layup, Jack. But yes, I am now a father of a gorgeous little girl, temporarily the youngest Fulham fan to join us. Her name is Karis. She is awesome. The sleep is tricky, but we're getting there. I don't know what else to say. The NHS is awesome. Very happy to be here. Let's talk about some football.
I think that's the most positive you're going to be for the whole podcast, Mark. So let's wash
I thought
that.
you were about to say that's the most positive he's going to be for the whole of her life. That was
Yeah,
dark.
for the next 18 years at least, but it's all downhill after that. No, congratulations, Mark. Yeah, joining
wild
the club.
congratulations.
Well done. I mean, you did nothing, but well done. Let's get into the game though, guys. It's been a while since we potted, so it's good to sort of catch up on what's happened last few weeks as well. Disappointing. Well, an up and down game against Man United, I guess, where we go down 3-2, almost pull it back after being 2-0 down. Great comeback, amazing goal from Kevin, and then to throw it away in the last minute. This game felt like it had a similar narrative to it, where we go down 2-1. It's a cliche, but it really was a game of two halves. First half, I genuinely think we could have come in 4-0 up at one point, and we end up losing this game 2-1. Dad, I'll throw to you first. Watching this game last night for us, frustrating watch because it all looked so good and then it fell to pieces.
Yeah, cliched game of two halves, wasn't it? I mean, there was a lot to be kind of pleased about or almost excited about in the first half. I thought we created a lot of really good opportunities. Were we unlucky, or was our execution just not good enough? I'll leave Mark. That's another perfect layup for you, Mark. But yeah, it was disappointing in the end. I think, to me, there was a little bit of controversy around at least one of those goals, which I hope we get to talk about. But I think we once again failed to deal with not dark arts, but aggressive pressing from not that good a side, and it kind of threw us off and made us sort of recede into our shells in the second half, and it was disappointing for sure.
Yeah, Mark, get stuck in, mate. Let's hear the first of the many rants for today's podcast. I mean, disappointing, I think, is the main word that we're using for this result, as was the Man United result, having been such an up and down game. How are you feeling sort of close to 24 hours afterwards now?
Yeah, I mean, both were gut punches in different ways, right? Especially given my father-in-law is an extremely smug United fan. So to see his face go from disappointment at 2-2 to pure elation at 3-2 was a tough one to swallow. And this Everton game as well. Honestly speaking, 4 points feels very fair, reasonable, and achievable between these two games. And it was at a certain point. And somehow we've ended with 0. Having said that, it is a rejuvenated United, so that's a whole different story. But Everton were woeful the first half. Absolutely woeful. They're probably woeful the second half as well. They're just a bit more disciplined and energetic, and for a variety of reasons, they came away with the win. I'm sure we'll discuss them. But, they do what they do very well. And you can see the players that sort of embody Everton and are key pieces for them. The ones I've mentioned in our group chat are Pickford and Tarkowski. There's a few others. Obviously, Dewsbury Hall was massive for them yesterday as well, and that's a whole other rant that I'm happy to get into. Wow, I would love an 8, a creative, hardworking 8. That would be so cool. If only he was available to buy at a reasonable price. But Tarkowski and Pickford are gritty. They're probably never going to be top 6 players. Maybe Pickford could have gone to a Tottenham or something like that. But they work hard and they're very, very good at what they do, the fundamentals, right? And I think we just get unstuck against these teams that are fighters. We didn't take our opportunities, and the refs, we don't want to make it about the refs. I think he gave them enough yellows, but we need to be a bit more streetwise. If a team's going to be that physical and that aggressive and press us that hard, we need to make them take more yellows. We need to get the ref on side, and he wasn't terrible, but I think he sort of let the game flow, and that was more to let the game flow the way Everton wanted to play it, and that was to their advantage. So deeply disappointing. We should have put them to bed very early, but Pickford, as usual against us, seems to think he's playing in a cup final against Liverpool because he was pulling off some incredible saves, and it's just frustrating, but I guess we go again.
Yeah, frustrating, disappointing, 2 words that describe this game perfectly and describe the last couple of weeks perfectly, I'd say. I mean, like you said, Pickford actually had a great game, I thought. The first goal obviously is, you can't really attribute to an error by Pickford, but he makes a very good save. I think it's from Chukwueze not long afterwards, tips the ball around the post. Couple of one-on-one saves, I think, from Smith Rowe, had a couple of good opportunities that he could have put away. I think maybe Cess was one of the other ones. We hit the bar twice as well. I think one of them was from Chukwueze's hammering drive, and maybe Berger hit the other one that hit the crossbar.
No, it was
Smith Rowe,
ESR.
sorry, it was.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if Pickford wasn't in great form there, taking out the ones that hit the crossbar, it's possible Fulham go in at half-time, 3-0, 4-0. Admittedly, they did hit the post as well, so maybe 3-1. But very different game in that second half, I think, if Fulham have maybe a slightly more cushioned lead. Dad, did you just... I mean, we've mentioned a game of 2 halves and the cliche itself multiple times now, but did you feel like it's sort of history repeating itself a bit? Because we do seem to consistently have good halves and bad halves, be it the first or second half, but we saw it against Brighton, we've seen it against Man United as well. Is there some sort of issue where this team is such a Jekyll and Hyde kind of team at the moment?
Yeah, and I think, look, they're all professionals. I don't think there's anything majorly wrong with any of these individual players, but in as much as the commentary team made mention of the fact that David Moyes obviously sent a rocket up them for their second half, and they did come out and play much better, or at least try harder and make it more difficult for us within the ceiling of their ability. But what can we say about the converse? And why wasn't Marco able to G the guys up to the same effect? I don't know, but we are definitely an inconsistent side. You try to analyze it as to whether there's something technical about the formations we come up against that make things difficult for us, or seem to show us up and make us look like we've just fallen away. Whether there's some sort of technical reason behind it, or whether it's just an attitude and a lack of concentration. When there's a break of just 10, 15 minutes, you go cold, you kind of lose your momentum, you lose a bunch of things, really. And it's not easy getting back to that level of intensity, but you have to, because these teams are all dangerous and they're all able to come at you. And I don't know what the answer is, but one thing that did kind of cross my mind, Fulham's always been a little bit inconsistent, or maybe it's just that teams like Fulham always look inconsistent when they come up against really, really well organized teams. But it was interesting that in the period where we had an incredibly effective striker who could operate on his own, I think enough time has passed that we can actually mention his name without repercussions or shuddering. And if you think about the inconsistent times when we had Mitro just doing it on his own and just bagging so many goals. Kind of feels like we need that level of elite striker just to smooth out the peaks and troughs and actually make us just collect another 15 goals a season, which would probably mean that we just win a handful more games and perhaps perform to a level that we expect for this team and this squad. And I know, again, I'm setting it up so many layups, Mark. I'm setting you up because we just don't have that goal scoring efficiency. And wonderful that we're creating opportunities, but it's the execution that just isn't, um, you know, razor sharp, and it costs us.
100%. I'm gonna take that opportunity with
Well,
both
please
hands
go.
and squeeze every piece of juice out of it that I can, because I've been raring to talk about this. Yes, Raul has been a bargain signing. Yes, it's amazing that when we get a penalty, we are elated because we are almost certain it's going to go in, and he's got the record for that. He works hard. He's a good guy. We got him on the cheap. He's outperforming, but he is not at the caliber we need to get to where we want to be. And I think we need to stop being so nice about it, because Mitrovic, you're right. Mitrovic had a bit of a temper. He had almost negative pace, but he was hungry for goals. He was a brute. He put fear into defenders. If he didn't score, he at least occupied them, and they would be nervous. They'd have to put two center backs on him at times, right? He was really, really potent from that angle. And with Raul, I feel like we're almost looking for excuses to let him off. And that swivel, turn, pretty much open goal opportunity that we missed, that could have made it 2-0 and probably buried the game, that kills me. And I think we see too much of that. And we let it go because Muniz is injured. We let it go because Raul is 35 and we've run him into the ground. Marco refuses to use Kusiasare, whatever other reasoning we want to give, right? But he's just not at the level that we need. And this sort of excuse that we have, that he's good from the penalty spot and he works hard, going back to what I said about Pickford and Tarkowski, they do the fundamentals. I don't give a shit about Pickford's distribution because he makes save after save after save. I don't care how good Tarkowski is with line-breaking passes or taking people on, because he is an excellent defender. He gets rid of the danger or makes it difficult for strikers. Raul doesn't have the fundamentals. He just doesn't score, right? I need you to score. You can do all the other pretty stuff, right? The toppings on the cake later, but I'm deeply frustrated, and it feels like we've been playing the season with the handbrake on. Not through any fault of Muniz because he got injured, but how good would it have been? We don't need to be a Forest. We don't need to spend a bunch of money on 10 different players and use a scattergun approach and mess it up that way. But how good would it have been to say, Muniz is injured, possibly until mid-February, maybe later. Maybe he won't be the same player. We're going to have a striker ready for you, Marco, right when the transfer window opens, within 3 days. And that could have been 4 or 5 games. Maybe he wouldn't have been bedded in immediately, but I get really frustrated that we're always penny pinching. We're always trying to look for the best deal, and it's going to bite us one day, this overly conservative approach. That's my rant.
What do you mean? What do you mean it's going to bite us? It's been biting us for 3 years.
Yeah, we're thoroughly bitten, I'd say. Look, I agree. I think, like you said, Raul, hats off to him. He's done a very good job for us for the last couple of years. It was a great signing. We picked him up on the cheap, but realistically, he should be no more than a backup striker at the moment. Coming off the bench, running around hard for the last 20 minutes or so to try and nick a goal. And he's been quite good at that when he has come off the bench as well. But he should be, our third striker. He should be the striker that Muniz and Pepe potentially are both learning from and understanding how his brain works, because he's got a good striker's brain. But going back to talking about Mitro, you look at the chance missed by Raul yesterday where he should have either laid it off to Wilson, who puts that ball away, or, he turned quite well, but you have to hit the target. He's standing, 8 yards out, 10 yards out, misses. Shocking. Because if that goes in, that changes the game. And Mitro would not miss that opportunity. even the goal that's scored, it's an own goal to Mikolenko. It's not a very good finish from Raul, I have to say. He's passed the ball gently down the middle of the goal. Pickford saves it quite comfortably, and it then bounces onto Mikolenko and back into the back of the net. It's disappointing, and I think we're missing a couple of key pieces at the moment. And you can take it back to the transfer strategy all you want, but there's key pieces missing, and I think we have been bitten, because if we did have those players already in the squad, we'd be sitting much higher up the table, much more comfortably than we are at the moment. A bit of a step back before the actual start of the game. Let's look at the lineup. A few changes there. Robinson dropped for Sessegnon. And then the bench, it's a very strong bench, which we don't usually see from Fulham. And we're usually, picking pieces in our bench and saying, oh, look, he's sort of filling gaps. And obviously Kearney was out injured, so Harrison Reed jumps on the bench. But seeing the likes of Tete back on the bench, Robinson obviously sitting on the bench, Bob on the bench, Kevin on the bench, Mooney's back on the bench as well. It's starting to look like a good squad there, Mark. How are we feeling in general? Obviously, the result from this game is not great, but how do we feel in general about the way that this Fulham squad is starting to come together despite having a few gaps?
Yeah, look, really cool bench when you look at it. Tete, Kevin, Bob, like you said. Bob is interesting for me, just to jump onto transfers a little bit, because Bob feels like a very rare case of Fulham planning for the future and going for a market opportunity. We needed an 8 for sure, and we didn't need as much, but we were still looking for a striker. That's the Pepe links, and Atta for the 8. But we saw Bob, and we got it over the line. And that's really, really exciting, because whether Wilson stays or goes, I would like him to stay, but I also think for the fee we paid and for the service he's done, it's not a horrible loss, but I would prefer he stays. But Bob seems like a good replacement for that spot. So yeah, the lineup's good. We are, the top 6 teams say it so often, so it sounds so cliche. We're only 1 or 2 good players away from winning this thing. We're not going to win it, but I genuinely think we are 1 or 2 good players away from Europe. 100%. The problem, like you guys have said, is it's just consistency. Because when this Fulham team plays hard, well, competently, with energy, can take on pretty much anyone bar the top 2. But it is that consistency. And the other thing I'd like to mention, we don't have any leaders. That bothers me. I thought Anderson could be that man. And a leader doesn't need to be a big guy, right? They just need to have fight. Someone like Ahmed Diallo is tiny, but he has fight. You can see every time he gets the ball, he wants to drive. He wants to be aggressive. He's got that fighting spirit. I don't see that so much from us, and that bothers me. I hope we can fix that. But going back to the original question, the bench looks good. 1 or 2 more additions, and we're flying. But this is why we need to back Marco.
Well,
yeah.
Again, you're right. The bench looks good, but we have an abundance of winger options, and obviously Bassi, great replacement for Cuenca should he have been needed. Jedi for Cess, Tete for Castagna, but we've got a massive hole in the middle, because if there was an injury yesterday, not that Berger was outstanding, but if there was an injury, we would have been in a lot of difficulty, with no disrespect to Harrison Reed. But he wasn't the bench, was he? Wasn't he?
Reed was on the bench,
yeah. But look, that's hugely problematic. I know Lukic is injured, but it's now becoming quite stark where the gap is, or where we simply just haven't delivered. If we can believe that Pepe or another striker is coming in, wonderful. But in order to really round it out, we've got to bring in some reinforcements in the middle. Well, not even reinforcements, improvements. We've still got problems there.
Let's jump to the game itself and look at the first goal. Fulham, I think, got off to... It wasn't the best start, but we managed to settle into the game. And after we sort of got hold after the first 10 minutes or so, I think we really dominated. And I think the goal was coming. It felt like that was going to happen at some point. Still we had a number of corners early on, I swear, and we just did nothing with them, which is always a little bit disappointing. And we'll sort of get to the flip side of that a little bit later. But the first goal goes in. It's a couple of people could have finished that one. We're probably unlucky that we didn't finish it beforehand. But Raul tried to claim the goal. Never going to get that one on the score sheet. But it's an own goal from Mikolenko. And I think after that, Fulham really looked like they dominated. Mark, let's try and... I was going to say to you, try and stay positive. It was a positive first half. Let's talk about what went well for Fulham. And I thought there was really good movement, some really good passing. The wing play was looking really good. I thought Cess had a superb game. And ESR as well, which is quite interesting. The two English boys with the England manager in attendance, I thought were probably the standouts in the first half.
Yeah, very fair. ESR was winning fouls left, right, and center. He was working hard. Even dove in for a few balls, which I don't know what we put in his food and drink, but that seemed to really spice him up. I'm really, really happy to see that. And I don't want to toot my own horn and say I knew he'd come good, but like we knew the technical ability was there, right? We were just really worried about the confidence, which is still a worry. It's not completely solved, but I'm really hoping Silva can continue this upward trajectory of ESR. Cess, I was in Camp Dave as well. I thought nostalgia signing, sentimental signing to appease the fans, 0 transfer fee. We love that, don't we? Free agent. But he's come so good. He's really deserved his spot. With Robbo sort of a little bit on the back foot and maybe taking a bit more time to get back to full fitness and build his confidence back up. Love having Cess there. Direct player, intelligent footballer, good triangles. I saw a stat that we were attacking something like maybe 49% down the left wing, as we always do. I wouldn't mind us mixing that up. But we're having a lot of joy. A lot of joy. And with the triangles they were playing between themselves, Cess, ESR, Chukwueze in there as well, really exciting stuff. On a different day, we've said it before, we're going in there 3-0 laughing, right? Or 3-1 or 4-1, something like that. Obviously, Pickford saves them, as he always does. Everton are really going to struggle to find someone as good as him when he eventually retires. I looked him up, going on a little tangent here, but he is 31, so he still does have 2 or 3 seasons left, unfortunately.
Jesus,
but
only 31. Wow.
I know he's absolutely squandered his career there, but there you go. It's probably
It just feels like he's been around a lot longer than that for some reason.
I know, right? Yeah, he's definitely been their number one for gotta be 6 years. But yeah, we did well. We did well for the first half.
For me, Chukwueze was actually the standout player for us in the first half. I thought he was inventive. He was difficult for them. He was tricky. His vision was great. He's really developing into a great signing for us, isn't he?
I mean,
he's special.
It's a must for me that we convert that one. I know a lot's been talked about the fact that it's something that Fulham are looking to do, and hopefully we can get that one over the line, and there's not too many issues with it. Fortunately, the fee, I believe, has already been agreed, so that makes life a lot easier. But he's been a great pickup on loan. Settled really quickly, obviously helped by having Iwobi and Bassi around him, and it's just a shame it's kind of taken until midway through the season for him to really, not hit his straps as such, but be given the opportunity by Marco on a more regular basis to do what he does best. And look, I think, first half was great. And interesting, Mark, you talk about Pickford and how he sort of wasted his career at Everton and great keeper, still young. I'm starting to have, and it might be slightly controversial, but I'm starting to have a few doubts about Leno. He's been a brilliant keeper for us for a very long time, but this season I'm just starting to see a few balls go over the top of his head that maybe should be saved if your reactions are just that little bit quicker. The corner it's an own goal for Leno. It's disappointing. Yes, there's a bit of physicality, but really a keeper's got to do better there. Even if you're throwing the player to the ground, a referee will protect a keeper 9 times out of 10. You very rarely see a keeper get blown up for a physical foul in the box. It's always the other way around. But, the Dewsbury Hall one, I think he can probably do better. I read, I heard on the commentary someone saying there was a bit of a deflection. I don't think there was. I think
Well,
potentially,
no angle showed it. I couldn't see it.
if there was a deflection, it was slight, and Leno should do better, and then he should do better from the corner. Mark, do you think it's maybe time to this summer is maybe time to look for a keeper who I need to have a quick look at how old Leno is, but do we feel like maybe this is getting to the point now where we should be looking forwards rather than sticking with someone like Leno?
Great question, Jack, and happy to jump in on this one as well. Leno was an amazing pickup for us, is an amazing pickup for us. For the fee we paid, for the few, we can see what Steve Reynolds wrote, third best in the PL for the first 2 seasons. We saw it. He rescued
absolutely.
games for us. He absolutely rescued points, rescued games. Immense. I think we should look for another goalkeeper. That's just the clever thing to do. We won't, though. We know how the cons operate. We know we operate on a shoestring budget. They'll say, hey, Leno's still got 2 years left and Lecomte's still got 1 year left. You have your goalkeepers. Just try and make it work. And this just seems to be our strategy. Just try and make it work. We have 3 holes in the ship and we're allowed to plug 1. And it's just deeply frustrating. Love Leno, doing very well. But if we were forward thinking, we would be looking at succession planning. Kind of like Bournemouth did with Petrovic, right? They paid a pretty handsome fee, but the guy is like 25, 26. And so long as he maintains his level, he can be in that goal for another 6, 7 seasons. Leno, I think at best, even if he recovers next season, has 2 seasons left in him.
Well, he turns 34 in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I think you're right, Mark. I think in reality we're not going to replace him, and I don't think we'll bring another keeper in. Not of a starting keeper. And maybe I'm being hopeful, but I actually think Leno's having a bad patch. I really do. I don't think he's rubbish. I don't think he's on a massive downward trajectory that's terminal. I think he'll come good. I do think he'll come good.
Look, I don't think he's rubbish by any means. I don't think, but I think you're right. He's having a bad patch at the moment. The problem is, if you want to be a team that pushes for Europe, your goalkeeper, the person who keeps balls out of the net to win you games, cannot be having a bad patch. And you can't drop points because your goalkeeper's having a bad time. Like you can have strikers maybe who have a bad patch, but they're easily replaceable. Keepers are not. And to the point of how do we potentially address it at the end of the season, I think the problem with goalkeepers is you have to wait for someone to become available. It's very hard, unless you can offer Europe, it's very hard to pull a quality goalkeeper away from another side, unless you're doubling, tripling their wage. Realistically, like for example, someone like Pickford, who's a great goalkeeper and has 4 or 5 years ahead of him, how do you pull him away from Everton? You pay him a lot more, or you offer him European football. Interesting, Steve Reynolds in our YouTube live stream mentioning someone like James Trafford. Again, it's someone like Trafford is a good example. He's a player who would be a good signing for us, I'd say. He's a good quality keeper. He wants to be playing first team football, but the problem is he available? I mean, from Man City now potentially, because he's obviously dropped down the pecking order behind Donnarumma. But it's always hard, I think, with keepers to find someone. We even see it with strikers at the moment. There's not a plethora of strikers out there who are available and who teams are willing to let go of. And keepers even less so, because they're so important. When you get a good keeper, you do not want to let go of them. Leno was an interesting one because he obviously got shoved down the pecking order by Ramsdale joining Arsenal, and he was all of a sudden available. And we did very well with a great deal to pull him into Fulham. But I don't know if there's a keeper out there at the moment who we can do the same with. Trafford's probably the only one that comes to mind. I don't know if there's any others or any others that we'd want.
I don't have anyone off the top of my head, but I do know that Chelsea have a bunch of keepers. And if we want to keep it London-based, I'm sure that we could poach one. for a nominal fee and keep them in
We're bringing
London, right?
Bettinelli back to the cottage.
Oh, he made his bed so he can sleep in it. The other point I want to raise about keepers is we often talk about adapting to the Premier League, which is very fair and valid, right? It is the fastest, the biggest, the strongest league in the world. And so we worry when we get someone from Portugal or Italy or France or Brazil, whether they'd adapt. I do feel goalkeepers have a little bit less of that, if that makes sense, right? They have to save shots, then they have to distribute whatever else, learn how to play how the team wants to play. But I think there's a little bit less of like an adaptation risk there. So I'm going to name one of my countrymen, Zion Suzuki at Parma. He seems to be tearing it up. Young, good goalkeeper. But I think there are options there. We don't need to just fish in the Premier League pond like we so often do for our outfield players. But yeah, I think it's time to start asking questions. I think it's very fair to ask questions. We're not saying bin Leno. We're not saying Leno is crap. We're saying, hey, there's been a measurable drop-off since the first 2 seasons. We should at least be having a discussion about what we're doing. So I think it's very reasonable that we're doing that.
Yeah. Looking at the 2 goals that we conceded, obviously Cuenca's come into the side when Bassi was at AFCON and has managed to keep his spot. I think Anderson has been, fairly solid as well. Castagna potentially now on the edge. We've obviously made the decision to switch out Robinson. Do you think Leno's obviously having a bit of a bad patch, but potentially are our back 4 having a bad patch as well?
Well, compare it to, maybe 12 months ago when our defense was, high functioning and really solid. I don't think you can say the same thing. Obviously, it's been a bit unstable and quite a lot of changes and injuries, probably more than we've suffered in the past. But I think we were very reliant on that kind of stability, and also highly reliant on Jedi actually, and not being unfair to the bloke because he's been out for a long period of time and he's been great for us, but he's been really disappointing since coming back, and it makes me really wonder whether those the injury was a bit fatal for him and for his career. He just doesn't look great, does he? His decision making looks off. His skills seem to have come back to his former level, but his decision making seems to be off. He looks kind of ragged. He looks unsettled, and he looks underconfident. But in answer to you, I think Cuenca's done a really good job. He had a weird game yesterday, and I saw a lot of people saying he was sort of man of the match, and he did do pretty well. But I thought he looked a bit rattled yesterday, and had a couple of instances where he was just playing the man.
Geez, that was shocking.
But those are poor decisions because he didn't need to do that. But he was obviously put off by the pace, or felt like he had to, take him out and really manage him physically. Where I don't think he needed to, but he just had a bit of a weird game yesterday. I still think he's a valuable player, and he's been a huge improver. And I've seen some comments about, is Cuenca someone who could be used further up the field to solve some of our other problems in defensive midfield. Interesting.
He did push forward with the ball a couple of times yesterday, which I think was positive, which is quite nice to see.
Turned the ball over a lot, though. He really turned the ball over a lot, he wasn't alone. But
it's always a balancing act with players like that, though. You want them to push forward with the ball and be progressive, but at the same time, they're not midfielders, they're defenders. So it's a bit of a trade-off. And I think that comes down to coaching and management to say, look, push forward, but don't take as many risks. And it's getting a balance right. And I think with Cuenca as well, he's still quite young from memory. I don't think he's...
I think he's actually 26, so he's on par with Bassi, surprisingly.
26, yeah. So him and Bassi, I mean, they could easily be our next sort of big call, but our next Hangeland and Hughes and be able to actually hang around for the next 4 or 5 years together and build a really strong partnership. And Anderson obviously is a little bit older, so he maybe doesn't have quite as long left. But there was, I'm just a little worried sometimes by our defence at the moment. I think there's a couple of shaky things, and admittedly, its injuries have disrupted it. You want to see Kenny Tete playing more often. Robinson's been off. We've had AFCON that's thrown a spanner in the works. A little further up the field, though, Mark, there's issues, and like you said, wouldn't it be great to have a really good 6 and an 8 next to each other? Obviously, we've got Lukic injured. Berger, I thought was okay yesterday. I thought Iwobi was okay as well, but the fluctuations are too massive for me.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
just back on our defensive performance at the moment. In open play, it is exactly what we're talking about. There are some problems there, and I think a fit Kenny Tete is always going to be preferred for me next to Anderson. Bassi on his day is a superstar and an absolute bull. But Cuenca's certainly not been disappointing, and he's actually paired pretty well with Anderson as well, to be fair to him, right? But I'd still much rather have a fit and firing and informed Bassi. I'm super worried about Jedi at the moment. I'm really concerned that injury has been kind of a big problem. Is going to prove to be a big problem for us to get him back to a certain level. I love what Cess is doing, but I always sort of feel that Cess is more valuable to us elsewhere. And I know there's plenty of competition and some real skills and utility on the wing. So arguably, Cess isn't needed there. Maybe the only role for him is to really play a role at full back. But going back to that second goal from Everton. And Skibby mentioned it in our private chat. Surely I was really unhappy with the way that they manhandled Leno, because I think he was interfered with, and unfortunately the refs just don't seem to care at the moment. But it's something that we have not reacted to, and when we mark zonally as opposed to man marking there, it just highlights that. I think in terms of defence, that is a massive hole for us at the moment. Our marking on set pieces and corners, we're really shit at it, and we just seem to don't have a technical answer for someone actually giving Leno working over, unless we've actually got a man helping Leno there. He's impaired.
But that's what you're meant to do. I'm going to put it out there and say it's not a foul on Leno. I really wanted it to be a foul on Leno and for him to be roughed up. The man standing there, he does put his arm up at first, but doesn't really grab onto Leno. Leno just can't get round him. He's done nothing wrong. He's allowed to be there to challenge for the ball. You're meant to have a man goal side between Leno and the opposition player, so that Leno can use that person as a shield and basically get round it. It's kind of like a block in basketball. You use him to shield that player so Leno can get round and clear that ball. Or the defender actually challenges that player and clears the ball. Leno shouldn't be manhandled there because there should be a player there. But sorry, when I say manhandled, Leno's not manhandled. He just can't get around a bigger, stronger person.
He's blocked. And but that does come back to our fixation with zonal marking and never having a plan B. It's
just poor defending, really poor defending, and you can't. There's no real excuse for it. You can't even say, he was put off by this person or that. It's just poor defending, and we saw it a few times. The Everton header that goes against the post in the first half, Jimenez's man again doesn't make a challenge for it, and that could have easily ended up in the back of the net. It's multiple instances where we are poor from corners. And poor in our defensive structure. You see it fairly regularly as well. Wide Ben being left open. And
unless these guys are so inept that they can't take instruction and actually implement that, which I'm struggling to believe.
They are taking instruction. They're taking instruction to do a particular thing. Unfortunately, because why would a player just leave?
Hold on. That's my point. that my point is, I think we've got a coaching problem.
Yeah.
Well, we do.
You
We have
know,
a coaching gap. We don't have a
yeah,
coach, as Steve says. We still do not have a coach for defending corners, and
that's
it's simple. And we're conceding goals from corners regularly at the moment, or even if not conceding goals from corners, we're being put under a lot of pressure when the opposition get a
you know,
corner.
it cannot be the most difficult thing to fix. There must be a dozen incredible people who would love to work in the Premier League that surely we could hire. I guess he's probably got to be Portuguese speaking, but maybe
Yeah.
not. Um, but surely that would be a relatively simple bit of business that we could do. Doesn't
Agreed.
seem to
And
be a priority.
let me jump in here real quick. I do think tinfoil hat. It could be Marco's ego. He could say, "I got it handled. Don't worry about it." When we clearly don't have it handled. The zonal marking, as Steve Reynolds says, is a problem. And the few times we do try and man mark, the mismatch is so freaking hilarious that I almost want to laugh
I think Harrison
at
Reed's
what I'm
been put
seeing.
on the tallest player a few times I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. Or Josh King is up against Mark Gahey. Or I think, I don't know if I got it wrong, but Oscar Bob against Tarkowski. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
What are we
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, I
It's-
did see
it's
that. Yeah,
performative.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. And look, it's a disappointing result. I think purely because of how well we played in the first half, and then how disproportionately poor we were in the second half compared to the first half. It's a bit of a heartbreaking one and a frustrating one because the last 2 weeks we've looked like you said, Mark, potentially picking up 4 points from two fairly tough games. When we were winning at one point, we were currently sitting 7th very comfortably. As the table stands at the moment, we're now down in 10th, and with games to come, Brighton potentially could overtake us today as well, push us down to 11th. We were, really pushing for those European spots, and now we've got a tough little run coming up. We've got Man City, followed by, I think, Sunderland, and then we have to play West Ham and Forest, who, have all of a sudden hit their straps a little bit and are looking like teams that could cause us some issues. Mark, I'll throw it to you first. Do you think that these recent results will potentially lead to a tough run for us over the next couple of weeks, or do you think there's the potential to bring it back from here?
I think we've been figured out, to be honest. There's a number of reasons we are where we are. I think we've had some good fortune the other way. Brighton wasn't really expecting much from that. Maybe a point would have been fair, but I would argue Brighton were a little bit better than us, but somehow we got 3. And basically Everton have done the same to us. As in, we've been the better side, we should have won, and somehow we've got 0. We always seem to fall off towards the tail end of the season. I'm not trying to be overly negative. I do think we have a good side. I just think there are gaps, and I don't see who the leaders are. Love TC, great guy, probably an amazing guy who will put his arm around the younger players and support them. But is he the man to lead when we're under pressure with 15 minutes to go and we need to get a goal or we need to hold on? I don't see where the leaders are. I don't see where the fighters are. I think it's going to be a tough run. Maybe we can pick up some points, but I don't know. I'm not feeling super positive.
Dad, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, honestly, when it's all said and done, we've got some good players in the dressing room from where we were 12 months ago. Arguably late. Some of them obviously only on loan, like Chuck Wasey. Thank you, Steve. But we've got some big holes, like the zonal marking, as we're talking about, problems in midfield. We don't have an elite pairing in midfield. We just don't. We've got striker problems, and I know some of those issues relate to a very serious injury to Mooney's, which has sidelined him for a very long time. And he wasn't in the best of form before he got the injury, and we haven't seen form like the form he had. What was it, February, March last year when he won Player of the Month? But I think he's shown enough to show that if we can get him back to that, he's a very useful asset. But we've got a problem up front. And I feel like we're muddling through. We're on any analysis, we're not high functioning at the moment. We're muddling through. And we've had some really good results, which have bagged some good points. So no qualms and arguments about that. But you couldn't rock back on your chair around the boardroom table and say, it's all coming together. This is going really well. Our long-term plan really seems to be evolving. We're muddling through. We really are, and it's uncomfortable from a fan perspective. It's just, you're kind of living on a bit of a prayer, really. And I don't know that we're in a situation where we're going to come up against the teams you mentioned over the next 3, 4, 5 games. We're not going to perform terribly against them, but we may well pull out one result that we weren't expecting and get a reasonable number of points, and we'll hang around the middle of the table. But to your point about the aspirations of Europe, I'm just not convinced that it's all going to plan, and we're on this trajectory, and we just need to buy the next 2 or 3 players like we know we will, because we are very strategic and great with our commerce. I just don't feel it.
Yeah. Before we sort of wrap up, a question from Steve Reynolds on our live stream. I'll pose it to you first, Mark. Obviously, next weekend, the next Fulham game coming up is the game against Stoke in the FA Cup. That's on Sunday. What's more important at the moment, the City game or the game against Stoke?
Feels like head versus heart for me. But
City is Wednesday night and Stoke is on Sunday.
I'm gonna go with Stoke. I don't know if that's contrarian or not. City are. They've got the bit between their teeth now. They reckon they can catch Arsenal. They probably can, because Arsenal has a funny ability to choke when they're in the lead. So City has Haaland, Cherky, whatever other names you want to throw out there. I'm not super... I don't think this is the best deployment of our resources, time, and energy. Make sure we win at Stoke. Get Robbo fit again. Get Kevin's confidence back up. Not that he's particularly lacking, but just use it as a training session, like a high-intensity, relatively medium-stakes training session to get the players that we know can be elite for us to perform for the rest of the season. So I'm going to go with Stoke.
Yeah. Dad?
It's an interesting one, Steve. I think, I'm not bothered about this Fulham team getting up for a City game. We always seem to. They play... They don't try and sit back against us. Why on earth would they? They come with such a huge reputation and such a long, history of success behind them that we always want to do well against them, and we normally step up and play really well. I have low expectation of actually taking home any points whatsoever, because through individual brilliance, no matter how well you're playing, they always seem to be able to steal it from you in the end. But that's okay as well. I have a clear memory of a really, really good game that we gave City last time. We lost, but everyone actually felt really good after the game because we gave them a really good game. I think it's vital that we beat Stoke. If we lose to Stoke, we're not going to put out a poor side, but if we lose to Stoke, I think that's a real sting for our momentum, and I think that would affect us for a period of time. Obviously, the league is important, and we're not home and dry yet in terms of staying up. I'm saying, so the maintaining our spot in the middle of the league is obviously vitally important. But I think they're both important. But I have no concerns that we'll put out and have a good showing against City.
Yeah, I agree. I think the game against City is going to be, like you said, we'll put out a strong side. It's not like we're going to rest players in favour of an FA Cup 4th round tie against a championship team. I think it'd be nice to win a trophy this season, but it does weirdly feel like another building season where we're not quite ready yet. And I think if we pushed all the way to the end, it would affect our league position and we could drop off. I'd rather us actually put a little bit of focus on the league from here and really make sure we win all those games and push as high up as we can and potentially steal one of those extra European spots, because there will be one. I think England are currently at the top of the coefficient standing, so there'll be an extra European spot for us at the end of the season. So I do hope we push on and do well. I hope we get a result against Man City, although I'm not overly confident, but fingers are always crossed. And I genuinely think we've put out a strong enough side to comfortably deal with Stoke. And hopefully we see maybe minutes for Muniz, maybe some minutes for Josh King again, although he might still be injured actually. And players like Bob and Kevin maybe getting more of a run out, and potentially that actually helps us going forward in getting more minutes into legs of players who could contribute a little bit more in the run-in, because there's the season is flying past. I mean, you look at it, there's only 12 games to go, something like that. It's really starting to get towards the pointy end very quickly, which has happened. It feels like it's just gone like that. Guys, I think we can probably wrap it up there. It's been good to podcast again. It's been a while for us, and unfortunately the podcast there's been a few things going on across the board for everyone involved, so we've had to maybe not pod as much as we would like to, but hopefully we're getting to the stage where we can get back on track again and be more regular with these pods. But it's been really good to catch up with you guys and talk all things Fulham. Mark, appreciate you putting your 8-day-old baby aside and packing her into the closet and just making sure she's quiet for a good hour. Really good of you to do that for us.
No, not at all. Always happy to be here, and maybe she'll make an appearance at some point.
Obviously, just to be clear, she's not in any wardrobes or anything. She's fine. She's being well taken care of. Mark is not solo parenting currently. He is a capable parent. Yep.
No promises.
Yeah, no comment. Dad, thanks for joining tonight.
Thank you. Really good to be back. Good to be doing this again, and nice to be talking to you guys. One thing that I don't think we've talked about in any length, but of the very, very brief minutes that we saw from Bob last night, our time anyway, I thought he looked really good, actually. Looked really busy. He was offering plenty. Didn't get that many opportunities, but he looked very, very, very clinical when he had the ball, and he looked like he belonged. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah,
could have said that about 2 minutes ago. But yeah, that's all good.
You didn't let me. Can't get a word in with you guys.
That's Mark's fault. He's very angry. Guys, thank you again very much. Mark, I'll let you close this one out for us.
And I'll finish with a "You are."